everybody. I am Ellie Diaz, and I am here with my dad, Andrew Pudewa, and we are here for another question and answer live on Instagram. So we have just a few things we want to remind you guys of so that you can get up to date on some of our upcoming things. So first of all, I would like to remind everybody that there are 2 days left to submit for the writing contest. So if your kids are interested in that, here's your reminder that the deadline is going to be on Saturday. And the second thing is our summer conference, which is upcoming. That is on June 25th. And right now we have over 1,000 people registered from all around the world. We're going to be having gifts, giveaways. You can even fly down to Oklahoma and see it in person if you so please. And you're going to be doing quite a few talks, I think.
I think 5 conference talks
all
all in one day. Yes.
Lot.
Reaching the Reluctant Writer, 4 Deadly Errors. What else? Care Community.
Some of the best ones.
Curriculum.
Some of the classics. Great.
So that'll be fun. And it says if you come, you don't have to fly. You could drive.
You could drive, yes.
But it's $10, and that gets you lunch and bottomless cups of best coffee. Organic, shade-grown, perfectly brewed.
By one of our employees, right?
Yeah, our IT manager,
wow,
Cameron.
That's pretty special.
He does it. But, you could drink $10 of coffee in
easily.
Short order.
Yep.
So, yeah.
That's a pretty good
and then
deal.
we have another one in the fall, online conference.
Yes.
And that's different workshops. So
yes, and you can find those. So the summer conference will be at IW.com/summer-conference, and the fall conference is IW.com/fall-conference. Pretty easy to remember.
And if you're not getting our newsletter, you can sign up for that, and then you get a reminder.
Yes, IW.com/newsletter. And then you will be kept up to date on all of that. Additionally, our TWSS Great Adventure starts in June, and the Great Adventure is an opportunity to go through the teaching, writing, structure, and style course with other teachers and other parents. It's very fun, encouraging, and you can also send in your work from the TWSS Adventure to apply for accreditation, which is a great opportunity. So
yeah, and during that time, however many weeks it is, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I think, we do a Facebook Live or YouTube. You can see it either place. Just answering questions about that unit and giving a few little bits of hopefully amusing, if not humorous, encouragement.
Speaking of amusement, do you have a joke to share today?
A joke for today.
I'm catching you off guard. I didn't ask you in advance.
Well, here's the joke that I'm planning to tell the girls at the gym when I go to the gym.
Okay.
I started telling jokes now that I can't get after them. So this couple, Jacob and Esther, they're old farmer couple. They go to the state fair every year. And every year Jacob says, let's take that airplane ride. And Esther says, there's no way that we're going to pay $50 for an airplane ride. And finally, they're like 80-something years old, and they're standing there arguing about whether they can do it. And he says, this is the last chance. I might not have another chance, and I really want to do it. And she said, well, it's $50. And $50 is $50. And so finally the pilot says, look, if you two can just stay quiet the whole time, I'll give you the airplane ride for free. But if you make a sound, you got to pay. And Esther says, well, okay. So they get in the airplane, and he goes up and does some loop-de-loops and all that, and they land, and he turns around and says to Jacob, I'm very surprised that you guys were quiet the whole way. I actually tried to make you scream or say something. And Jacob said, well, I was going to say something when Esther fell out, but $50 is $50.
Oh my gosh, that was not all where I was expecting that joke to go.
Well, that's the better kind of joke, right?
Yes.
Grisly ending. No actual people were hurt in the making of this joke. So.
That's really funny. That's a good one. All right, well, without further ado, let's dive into some questions.
Sure.
All right, our first question is from @A Bloukusa. I'm not going to try to
And
pronounce
you know
it.
what? I saw that she or he actually joined.
Oh, great. So
So
you're here watching.
This
That's
question
even better.
is for someone who actually is listening for the answer.
That is great. So the question is, how much parental involvement is in the homeschool IEW courses?
Well, less now than there used to be, because our new SSS programs are really just kind of plug and play. Mm-hmm. So you don't need a lot of preparation. You just kind of have to be sure that the student gets the materials for the right lesson at the right time. And really the biggest thing is editing the papers. So what I do at the beginning of the class is I say, your first assignment is hire an editor. It could be an older brother or sister, or hopefully someone who knows a little bit more than you do, or a grandma or a friend. It could even be your mom. Of course, you may have to train your mom how to edit papers. That's the subject, part of my Four Deadly Errors of Teaching Writing.
Oh.
Is, when you edit a student paper, just mark what you want to mark. No mini lectures. Just fix it up, hand it back with no lecture attached. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the moms need a little encouragement to drop the lecture part. But that's about it. And if you yourself don't feel good about, English mechanics and spelling and things that you would fix, then you probably need to find someone who can do that. But like I said, often another family member or a friend or another homeschooling mom who likes English stuff. So there's not a lot of prep work or teaching, mostly just kind of monitoring, that the student is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So that's with the SSS video courses. If you were to go with, one of the theme-based writing lesson books, then there's quite a bit more in terms of parental involvement.
And if you're concerned about the parental involvement and you're worried that you won't understand what's going on in the class, the Teaching Writing Structure and Style is a course specifically for the teacher and parent to go through that teaches them the entire methodology from the standing point of the teacher or parent. So that would be definitely helpful if that was something you wanted to go the extra mile to do. All right. The next question is from at the Gold Pinecone, who I think has asked a question almost every single live.
Well, thanks for at the Gold Pinecone.
And this one's actually not from her. This says, my kids want to know if you composed the opening music for the SSS classes.
No, but it's a little bit of an interesting history. Back in 1999, so that would have been, 23 years ago?
Yes.
We released the spelling program. Mm. And it was actually a friend of my mother's who did the recording
really? I didn't
of that spelling program, and he created that piece of music.
Wow.
Which was actually a whole lot longer than just the small excerpt we used as the intro in the spelling, and it was entitled The Spelling Concerto.
Wow.
And so, I've owned that thing, and we used it for various purposes. But when we did the SSS, we took the piece of music and we orchestrated it for guitar.
Oh,
and then it was, anybody who listens to our podcast probably knows Julie Walker. Her son, Joel, who's quite the amazing musician, he recorded and created the master for the intro music on the SSS. So
wow, that's a nice history for one piece of music.
Yeah, it is kind of fun. So
time.
It was unofficially called the Spelling Concerto, but now it's known better as the SSS bumper music. And you sent me a thing about a family with 2 kids. And when the credits rolled at the end, and the music came on, they cried because it was the last of the video.
Yes, we just got that in our DMs the other day. Yes,
that was sweet.
I think people definitely, when you become a weekly, sometimes daily presence in people's lives, I can see how that would be sad to miss out on your daily jokes.
Yes,
they'll have to bug their parents for a daily joke if they want to keep, or weekly joke if they want to keep up with it over the summer. Okay, next question is from Laura, and she asked, I would like to offer a writing class for our homeschool group. Is it best to offer it as a weekly class? Because they meet every other week.
Mm-hmm. Well, you could do it either way. I like weekly class with an occasional break. So, I mean, like 3 weeks a month might be a good in between. But obviously, if you do it every other week, you're not going to get as much done in terms of instruction time or probably number of assignments over the course of the year. So it's probably kind of up to what the parents would like. Perhaps more important than whether, if it were me doing it, more important than doing it every week or every other week would be how much time do you have to do it? Because a lot of kind of co-ops and class structures are an hour. And I just find that so hard because you want to have time. You want to have time to start with a good joke. That's critical. You want to have time to read some of the papers or have the kids read some of the papers that they just finished. And then you want to be able to read the source text and talk about it, and then probably make the keyword outlines together or most of it. And then you want the kids to have a chance to start writing at least the first few sentences of the first paragraph in class, because that's when they may have a question about a new technique, or, are they doing it the right way, or did they understand something? So if you can get them to start writing in the class, you can oftentimes preempt, or you can answer questions that they will have, but then they might not have those questions until they go home and forget quite a bit, and then what do? Call you, email you. So I really like at least an hour and a half for a class. But, if you do more than every other week, you're going to get more writing done over the course of the year.
And I think there's co-ops who are currently using the SSS so that the students watch your video by themselves at home, and then when they come into class, the teacher is able to reinforce the lesson, and that way it creates a little bit more time. The lesson was taught by you, and then they have time to reinforce and help the students with that kind of hands-on
and
approach.
that's the way we do our live online classes, is a flipped classroom. So that's definitely one good option. We have 24 weeks. Week 24 has no homework, so 23 assignments. And if you stretch that out over a typical school year of approximately 32 weeks, 30 to 32 weeks, then you've got, a week off every month or whatever. So.
Yeah. Okay, great. Next, Simona asked, how do I motivate my child to get into spelling and writing all by himself? He is in first grade.
Well, a 6-year-old boy may just not be developmentally ready to be all that interested in writing and spelling. So I wouldn't worry too much about that grade age boy, and just maybe wait a little bit. But I will tell you one story about Aiden, and he's of course a little older. This is my grandson, her nephew. So he's been a reluctant writer, and part of his problem is he's a little perfectionistic. So he wants all his letters to be made just perfectly, and he's afraid to write a word that he doesn't know how to spell. And I keep saying, don't worry about that stuff. Just write, just do it. So anyway, I finally got him to write a whole paragraph using Bible heroes.
Oh, okay.
And it was the first time I think he'd written that, like 6 sentences all in a row. And so he was kind of like done when we were done with that. But then I got one of these nice little notebooks that I get sometimes at conventions for free. And I had a few of these little miscellaneous blank book things. So I gave one to each of the kids in that family. And I gave one to Sienna because, she's got to be part of it.
Be included.
And then I gave one to Chaley, and she goes, oh, I can make pictures of flowers, and I can do my nature notes. And then I gave one to Aiden. They're like, oh, thank you, Grandpa, thank you, Grandpa. And then their mother just told me yesterday, and this is just a couple days, that Aiden has decided to use his notebook and write the story of The Hobbit.
Wow,
Which
that is very ambitious.
He's not seen the movie.
He really wants to, though.
But he has listened to The Hobbit on audio. I think he's in his third time through.
Wow.
And so he just started writing.
That's amazing.
And she said he's, many, many pages into this retelling of The Hobbit now.
Wow.
So I don't know, may just be that, that might not have happened. I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have happened a year ago because he just wasn't developmentally ready. And he's 9, but a young 9. And like I said, reading and writing have never been something he was particularly thrilled about. But there's the timing, the circumstances. And I think that breakthrough of having used the keyword outline and then rewrote sentence by sentence with me right by his side the whole time, which seemed to take forever. And that was like a breakthrough for him. So I think probably, to answer Simona's question, to motivate a child to get into it is just do it together, give as much help as possible, and don't worry. And then at some point, this year, next year, 2 years from now, you never know, the child will probably come up with this idea of, I can do this myself. So I'm looking forward to seeing Aiden's little book of The Hobbit.
I'll have to ask him to show me. I think audiobooks also help. I think I remember Chris really liked the idea of writing after he gained so much from audiobooks himself. And so I think even at that age, he could listen to a few audiobooks just to help him develop that love of reading and books.
Yeah, absolutely. Audiobooks are great.
All right. And Sandra asked, how is IEW helpful to remediate writing for high school autistic students who lack strong executive function and are very reluctant writers? How do you know where to start when your student is a senior in high school but isn't writing, but at a middle school level? Yeah,
that's a great question. So we see a tremendous good result with both kids who are on the spectrum. We also see a very good result with kids who are in the dyslexic dysgraphic zone. And both of those, it's harder because it's so complex. So when you write something, it's so insanely complex. You've got to find an idea. Then you've got to somehow speak that idea into existence. Then you've got to kind of hear what you heard yourself say. Then you've got to hold in your memory what you heard yourself say to yourself long enough to then go grab the words and the spelling, the letters and the spelling to write the first word, go back to what you try to remember, remember the next word, go grab the information, write the next one, and work through a whole sentence, and then you've got to go do that again and again and again. So generally, it's overwhelm. And of course, executive function is kind of that idea of having a lot of variables and being able to prioritize and figure out what to do and make decisions and all that. So what works so well with our system is that it takes the huge complexity and breaks it into very small steps that you can accomplish one thing at a time. So first, read a sentence, understand it. Second, choose keywords. Third, copy the keywords into an outline, right? Fourth, tell back the content from the outline. Fifth, make a sentence out of the first one. And you don't have to hold so much in your mind and your what do you call it, immediate memory, because you've got notes in a system. And then that gradually moves from a source text to taking notes from your brain. And so that's the good one. Now, none of our stuff has grade level associated with it. We have ABC, and I always like to stress that it's not grade level, it's reading level. So you could have, an older student who is reading things at more of, say, a middle school reading level or a upper elementary reading level, and it's okay. In fact, it's better to start with something that's a little too easy than something that's a little too hard. Because it's better to err on the side of, this is something that the student can do without too much stress or overwhelm or complexity. So I would encourage Sandra, if she's listening, to maybe call our customer service team.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a lot of very experienced, everyone on our team is either a student who used our material and graduated, or mostly moms who taught with our stuff to lots of kids. And they have their own personal experience as well as the experience of, answering 1,000 questions and helping people individually. So if you describe your student a little more, they can point you to the materials that would be most likely to be the best help. So
yes, we're a huge fan of that personalized approach for each student being their own individual and getting a personalized answer from our team. Definitely call them. So our customer service, you can chat them at iew.com/chat, and you can also call at 1-800-856-5815, and all that information is on our website. All right, next question is from Veronica. She asks, do students struggle with reading and writing due to a weak foundation of phonics skills? Which is more effective, research-based or evidence-based strategies? I believe it to be the latter. May you explain which one you would select and why, please? Thank you.
Okay, that's kind of two questions. So the first question is, do students struggle with reading and writing due to a weak foundation of phonics skills? In general, I would say yes. Depending on what the student has done in the past, there may be holes in terms of their understanding of letter patterns for decoding and encoding. And that can be shored up. That can be taught even to an older student at a younger age. I would recommend also a talk that I believe is on our website called Spelling and the Brain. And as a part of that talk, I differentiate between spelling for decoding, meaning reading, and spelling for encoding, meaning writing. And phonics for decoding versus phonics for encoding. And so that would help the understanding. There can be other factors that are affecting confidence with reading and writing as well. And that could be, the dyslexic graphic or on the spectrum, or certainly some kinds of the ADD, ADHD, where it's just, concentrating for a whole 5 minutes on a piece of paper is just burning their poor little brains out. So there are different strategies for that. I would say if you suspect some type of maybe neurological question about why the student isn't doing reading or writing the way you would wish, we have a whole site with lots of links, iew.com/SPED.
Yes,
that's
correct.
And interviews with people on our podcast, links to lots of information that might be helpful.
Yes.
The second question, which is more effective, research-based or evidence-based strategies? Certainly there's going to be an overlap. Research-based is when people do research and come up with this theory about what is the best way to teach something. But as we know from looking at the confusion of our modern world about research, people can pretty much create research to support any position that they might have a self-interest in creating.
Absolutely.
So I think the whole idea of research-based curriculum is on the weak side. And, it's funny, you see this, also in there of like health and nutrition. Some company that sells something can go and basically pay someone to do research to prove that their product is the best, but that doesn't mean it is. I like kind of the testimonial side. So, it's not organized in the same way, and it doesn't carry quite as much weight in academia. But when you hear story after story after story, kind of empirical evidence, this was what happened in our situation, then you can make some generalizations about its effectiveness.
Yeah.
So I would tend to agree with Veronica that when I'm looking for something, whether it's a curricular idea or really anything, I tend to look at those kind of stories of people as carrying a lot of weight in terms of, should I invest or try that thing or do that thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Reviews is the number one place in the website I go to.
Yeah, reviews, although those can be skewed.
That is true.
Shoot.
I've been to some websites where they only have 5-star reviews, and you think that's not possible. I'm sure somebody has been disappointed
You're not
at some point
you're
in
not
time.
that good, but
Yes. Facebook groups are great, and we actually have a Facebook group, Homeschool Help by IEW. I'll link that in the comments.
when we have the IEW curriculum official group
Yes.
too.
I can't remember the exact name, but I will put the link in the comments.
Yeah, and I really like it how people that we don't even know are basically helping each other.
Yes,
I love that.
Yeah, and you can just read those I think people will post about their particular situation and say, here's what's going on. Has anybody else been in this situation? And then they can kind of converse based on that.
Yeah.
So that's great. All right, we have another question here, and this one is... This is from
Abe Luke USA.
I
Oh,
know.
she asked the question
Yes,
before.
She did,
Okay.
yes. And she said, homeschooling is new to me, so I'm a little confused on language arts. If we purchase your class, does it cover the bases of language arts where I wouldn't need to add any other curriculum? And then she also said, I'm assuming I can use the purchased course for multiple children, mom of 7.
Oh, wonderful. Well, yes. Anything you buy from us, as a family, you can use however you wish. Our video courses have the video, and then you can buy extra student materials
Yes.
if you don't want the hassle of trying to copy off and organize and set up notebooks and all that for a second or third child in the family. And usually people like that, just give me what I need and then save me the time.
And they all get the same binder, so there's no fighting over who
No,
gets the pretty IEW
the cool
binder.
binder, yeah. But the other question is IEW a complete language arts program? You kind of have to define language arts. A lot of people, when they say language arts, they're thinking of a whole lot of painful stuff like, phonics and reading and letter formation and handwriting and grammar and punctuation and spelling, and then there's composition and reading comprehension and literature and public speaking and who knows what else. And it gets overwhelming when you use that term language arts in that kind of huge sense. We try to simplify it and say, in our view, the language arts are listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And then the extension of that is better thinking. If you think about it that way, yes, I would say all of our products are designed to cultivate listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. If you have young children and you want a phonics-based reading program, we have that, the PAL. And there are others out there, of course.
Yeah.
If you specifically want a handwriting program, we have cursive knowledge. But there are also other, cursive programs that are very good. If you want a literature recommendation list, then we have some of those. But we don't really say, here's all the books you should read in nth grade. There are other people who have that. In homeschooling, one of the long-time, very successful programs is called Sonlight, Sonlight. It's a kind of a distinctly Christian approach, but it's a literature-based approach to teaching everything, and particularly history, a lot of historical fiction. And so if you needed literature guides, you can, of course, look on our site for the couple book lists we have. But if you wanted a real curriculum based on literature, you might look for something like that. And then, we've got peripheral things like vocabulary is worked into our theme-based writing lessons, Fix-It Grammar, and we sell that bundled together with the composition program, so you could do them together or not. And then we do have some public speaking and poetry material that exists now, although we have in the future even more along the lines of that coming out. So I would like to say, yes, we do have a complete language arts program, but it kind of depends on how you define that and how grade attached you are.
And also the individual state in which you are located in and what their requirements for a language arts credit is, which we cannot really speak on the different states, but your homeschool state organization will probably have resources to help you to understand exactly what you would need to have included in order to make for a language arts credit.
Right. And you really don't have to worry about credits until you're in high school looking at transcripts. Up to that point, you can just do whatever you want.
Depending on the state, though. Some are stricter than others. But
True.
yes,
True.
Great. All right, we have one more question here, and then we will wrap up unless anybody has a question which you can ask at this point now. April asks, what advice do you have for us who started off later in IAW?
Oh, don't worry. You started. That's the important thing. A lot of times people say, well, when should you start something? And I always think back to my background as a music teacher, right? I mean, you could start playing the violin or the piano or the saxophone or whatever at 4 years old. Well, saxophone not, but you could start playing the violin at 4 years old or 10 years old or 12 years old or 16 or 22 or 70. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you start. And you don't, you may gain something by starting a little earlier, but that doesn't mean you have eliminated all the potential benefits that you could gain by starting now and keeping with it. So, my general advice is don't worry. You are where you are. You make progress as you make progress. That all becomes, an asset for the students for their whole life. And, I've had stories of, someone doing 1 year in their last year of high school and still going off to college and saying, wow, this is making writing so easy for me in the college world. So, the main thing would be don't be concerned about being late. And if you're not sure which products to use, again, our excellent team of customer service people would be able to hear you, how old of a student, what your particular concerns or goals, and then make recommendations accordingly.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I do not see any more questions in here, so we will go ahead and wrap it up. Again, I just want to remind you about that upcoming summer conference, IAW.com/summer conference, the Great Adventure, which I will link everything that we've spoken about in the comments of this recording. So if you're not sure where to find something, you can come back to the recording and look in the comments and you will be able to see that there. So, all right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Dad, for coming by here to do this with us. And thank you, everybody, for joining.
Isn't she just so beautiful?
Thank you. Isn't he just beautiful?
And intelligent.
Thank you. Well, you raised me, so credit goes to you. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it, and we will see you again likely next month since we're planning on doing them monthly. So if you have any questions in the meantime, keep them in your head, and then join us back here next month for another live. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.